Welcome to South Coast Working, the voice of working people and those who continue to build the South Coast each and every day. From the docks to the mills to the classrooms to the roadways, working people add a voice and life to southeastern Massachusetts. Brought to you by the UMass Dartmouth Arnold M. Dubin Labor Education Center.
Welcome to South Coast Working. I'm Kim Wilson. Today we're joined by Elise Bryant. She's an accomplished playwright who's turned the experiences of women and workers into theater. Her autobiographical one-woman play, Queen of the Night, recounts her experiences growing up in a working-class Black family during the Civil Rights Movement and the Detroit Rebellion. Elise is also a composer and recording artist who lectures on Black spiritual music and freedom songs. She's also served as the president of the Coalition of Labor Union Women and executive director of the Labor Heritage Foundation. She is a former professor at the National Labor College. Hello, Elise. Thank you so much for coming to the Labor Education Center. We're so glad you're here and the opportunity to talk. I would like to get started with the question of how did you first get involved in the labor movement, as well as theater, music, and cultural work?
My first involvement with the labor movement, well, actually, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. That's number one. And we were in Southwest Detroit. And so on the east was the Ford Rouge plant. On the west was Great Lakes Steel. And to the north of us was Marathon Oil. And everybody was in a union in Southwest Detroit. In Detroit at that time, I mean, between the auto workers and the teachers union and everybody else, federal workers. And so union was just part of our thinking and our blood. And, Labor Day, my father would get dressed up and, go and march on down Woodward Avenue with thousands of workers. And so that was just accepted. And it was literally in the air, in the water. And I was always, as a little girl, I was into theater. I didn't call it theater, but I was staging shows in the backyard we put a blanket on the clothesline and we'd do a show. And my first play was called Murder in the Dark. But that led me to not to study theater, because when I started college, I was, graduated from high school, and me and my best friend Ava Brown and the guy who sat behind me through high school, Ben Carson, we're all going into pre-med at the University of Michigan. The real Ben Carson? Yes. Benny Carson, as we called him then, Benji Carson. Yeah, that's another story for another time. But I was still doing theater. Like we did a production in high school that we put together, but I didn't think to go in theater in college. I mean, you couldn't earn a living. I didn't think you could earn a living. And I was smart, so you're going to go be a doctor, or a lawyer, or a teacher, or a social worker. And so we were going to go into pre-med. But I was still doing theater on the side, and I joined this theater company called Theater Company of Ann Arbor. And it was started by a professor from Eastern Michigan University, a woman professor. She was the only woman professor on staff. They never gave her a show to direct. So she started her own theater company. And the idea was to use spoken word and turn that into theater, telling stories. And I was invited to join it. And when she left, a whole bunch of people left as well. And we became a theater company with one guy and a bunch of women. And so he was like, well, you should do your own show. So we did a show called Mad Madonnas, where we basically told our own stories. And then we did the next show was Bitch You Crazy, which is based on a story of one of our members was sitting around at a dinner table with her husband and another couple. And it's a year that Shirley Chisholm was going to run for president. And they said, who are you going to vote for president? And they all said who they were going to vote for. And they turned to her and she said, oh, I'm voting for Shirley Chisholm. And her husband looked at her and said, bitch, you crazy. She don't stand a chance. So that was the name of the show, Bitch You Crazy. And we had T-shirts that said Bitch You Crazy. And it was really quite popular at the time. So that whole idea of telling our own stories and using poetry and stories at the same time led Joyce and Hy Kornblue. Hy Kornblue was the director of the Labor Study Center at the University of Michigan. And Joyce was his wife, who would start a program in Women in Work. And they saw our shows. And they said, you know what? why don't you come here and start a theater project? And, there's labor theaters happens, but it's always professionals. We want workers telling their own stories. And I said, oh, okay. So I sat down with Roger Kirsten, who was also a secretary there, and a guy named John, whose name just went out of my head, and two other people from the staff. And we were sitting around, we were brainstorming a title for the project, and we came up with the Workers' Lives, Worker Stories. And this would be workers themselves telling their own stories. It went from 1982 until 1997, when I left the University of Michigan to go to the National Labor College. And we performed all the time, everywhere. And it was them telling their stories, using poetry and using music and song. So it'd be like story, song, poem, so story, song, poem. And I remember the first time we did it at the UAW headquarters in Detroit, Michigan. And they were so nervous. I mean, these were rank and file members, right? And they were like so nervous. Like, oh, what are we going to do? I said, it's going to be fine. There was another theater company that performed before us. And they came to me and said, we got this. And they went out there and they told their stories. And every time we did it, whenever we performed for any union conference or convention, someone would come up afterward and say, that's me. That's my story. That's me. That's my story. Because the images of us and our stories are not being told. You got, never mind, we're going to what television and movies do. But this being a normal, everyday person and the everyday heroes and sheroes that we encounter in our lives, telling labor history through storytelling in the way that Bev Grant created with We Were There, by having the stories of women activists in the labor movement and work tell their stories. So that's how I got there. And then the Corn Blues paid me to direct a labor theater project. Something I never dreamed would ever happen, and here I am.
Great, thank you. Who in your life changed how you see theater?
That would be Mr. Desjardins, my 12th grade English teacher. I write about it in my play, autobiographical play, Queen of the Night. But he basically supported that we could be creative, I could be creative, and sing and do theater. But the key thing that I got from him was the one exercise we had in class. It was the first day of class, and he walked in late. I mean, the teacher was late. Like, it never happens. The teacher's not late. And he came in, he said, take out a pencil and a piece of paper. And we're going, oh, it's going to be a test. And he said, I want you to write down everything you thought from the moment I came in the room until I tell you to stop. So we were writing furiously. And then he said, stop. And he said, this is a style of writing called stream of consciousness. It's a style that William Faulkner wrote in, Please Open Your Books. And I was like, stream of consciousness? What the hell is that? So fast forward 20 years, I am given landmark Michigan law cases on a project. This is the first woman head of the Michigan Law Association. She wanted to do these landmark cases as plays. I was given the court records for Rutha and Thornton Blackburn, who had run away from slavery in Louisville, Kentucky, to Detroit, Michigan. There were none of their words in it. I had the judges, I had the lawyers, I had the slave owners, the slave catcher, all of their transcripts, but not a word from Rutha and Thornton. So I sat down at the computer. I think I was a computer. It might have been an IBM Selectric typewriter. And I couldn't write anything. And then I remembered this woman from South Africa came to the Great Labor Arts Exchange and said, I was in Chicago and I heard this song, and it goes like this. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. And she said, yes, that's it. We start singing it with her. She said, oh, that's it. That's the song. This is what I'm thinking. I'm going to change the words to Free Mandela, Free Mandela, Free Mandela for me. And I thought in that moment that the songs that our ancestors created in slavery in the United States is going back to the motherland for the liberation in South Africa. So as I was sitting at that computer, not knowing where to start because I didn't have any records from Ruth and Thornton Blackburn, I started singing, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. I dream sometime I'm crossing the river again, but I can't go back. I can't ever go back. I still got family in Louisville, and it grieves me to think of them living there and me so far away. Never thought about nothing or running away or freedom till I met Thornton. Never really talked to him till we was at the general store one day. And that's how it came out, in that stream of consciousness right there. Just my fingers and the keyboard and the voice of Ruth Ann Thornton coming through me. That's theater. And I thank Mr. Desjardins for giving me that tool. And guess what the name of his first granddaughter is? Elise.
Such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. If you're comfortable, please share an excerpt from your play about your family in Detroit and any other examples of your work.
Well, this is a piece that actually I started with the theater company in Ann Arbor, and eventually we changed our names to Common Ground. And it was a really good example of us using our stories to tell it. So it's called Surrounded by Celebration. There were 9 people in my family, so I feel at home with lots of people around me. Bittersweet memories of growing up in Southwest Detroit during the 60s are always with me. Images of smokestacks, freeways, riots, and holidays. The holidays were the best. The majority of my community worked for Ford, GM, or Chrysler, and the day off from a factory was plenty of reason to party, to stay home, to relax. Don't forget the Motor City. Don't forget the Motor City. Don't forget the Motor City. No, don't. Labor Day was a special holiday in the city of the Big Three. My father would wake up early, dapper, put on a suit and a tie, and then steel-toed boots. And he would proceed to march down Woodward Avenue next to thousands of fellow workers organized into union locals. Taking the day off, they would march with heads held high, demonstrating the pride and the worth that the backbone of this nation deserves to know every day of their working lives. Holidays brought my community together, and I enjoyed being surrounded by celebration.
I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask some of your ideas about the power and potential of cultural work in building communities and movements.
Well, culture, the word culture comes from Latin, meaning to care, cultus. So when you cultivate a field, you're taking care of it. And culture, music, movement, the arts, and spoken word are the foods that feed our soul. And without it, literally, we spiritually die. And so having storytelling, having plays, having songs, having dances, having art, visual art, and sculpture and all that are the food that feed our souls and are really required for our full human experience. And doing a play, the actors in the play bond, right? They become a unit unto themselves. And then the audience, and this, I didn't know this, but when I was doing Queen of the Night, my one-woman show, someone in the audience explained this to me, that when you do storytelling, people in the audience see what you see. And the parts of the brain that are activated in the storyteller are activated in the people who are listening to it. So in that respect, we are literally, and this is what I say about singing too, is we become united as one. And that's why I'm all for singing and singing songs that people know and using, parodies, popular songs and changing them into union songs or labor songs or activist social justice songs, because it's imprinted in your brain. And music is the only thing that happens in both hemispheres of the brain. So that when you sing, you literally light up in a way. But when we're also singing or chanting, we're breathing together. And when we breathe together, we synchronize. Our hearts literally synchronize as one. So in those moments of song or chanting and theater, we are literally synchronizing as one, and our brains are being activated in the same way.
I really wanted to ask you about, because I wanted to see if there's any stories that you'd like to share of times when you've built using cultural work to foster unity. Please share with us a recent example of showing unity during the current administration.
Well, as you know, the Doge went in and they just, fired so many federal workers. I mean, just displaced them. And so the American Federation of Government Employees had a rally after that on the mall near the Capitol. And we were invited to sing. We are the DC Labor Chorus. We sing for all who labor. We sing to organize. We are a mighty chorus. We're singing for our lives. So we're up there singing our song, and, we got to do 3 of them. The crowd was into it, and they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Then that evening, the news reports said a bunch of old fogies got up and sang, this is what labor is about today. And the members of the chorus were like so hurt. Everyone was like, oh my God, did you see? And we were on 7 different shows, including Jimmy Kimmel. And the New York Times wrote about us, about that experience, and just said, oh yeah, these are just old folks, and this is what's happening in the labor movement. And I said to them, what they didn't show on those television shows was the crowd, those thousands of people who were raising their voices with us, who were cheering with us, who were chanting with us. And the energy that was there that day could not be captured by their cameras because they didn't want to see that. That's not what they wanted to promote. But the unity that we felt, the energy that we felt, that when we sing together, we breathe together, and we breathe together, our hearts synchronize as one. And that is the power of solidarity. That is the power of the union. And that's why they're afraid of it.
Absolutely perfect. That was so cool. In what ways can theater, music, song, and cultural work strengthen our work?
We could actually, I have done this in class, in Stewart's training, used Augusto Boal's Theater of the Oppressed exercises to reenact a scene where something wasn't resolved, and had the stewards, acted out in a classroom. And it is amazing what happens, especially when you allow people here's a scene, we're going to reenact the whole thing. Tell us how the story happened. You're not going to be in it, but you're going to watch it happen. And then we're going to talk about different interventions. And the power of that work, I've just seen people come out of that class and just go back and raise hell at their local because they realize that, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just one answer to this. And that if I don't get it right this time, I can do something else. But also, we need to stimulate that part of our brain. We need the creativity. This isn't just all about the charts and the figures and the numbers and organizing, but we also have to feed our spirit and feed our souls. And that's what theater, music, and song and culture work does.
Thank you very much. I wonder if there's anything else that you would like to share with us.
In this time that we're in, as dangerous and as morally bankrupt that the current administration is, we cannot lose faith. We cannot turn back. For a long time, I was described myself for a little bit as an atheist and as an agnostic. But then I realized that no, I'm a spiritualist. And the way it came to me was at a coalition of Black Trade Unions conference. And on Sunday morning, they had the choir coming in, and the choir came in singing, "We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. He never failed me yet." And as I listened to them, I realized that something George Houston Bass, who was a professor at Brown University, said to me when I said, I'm at this conference and I don't know why I'm here. I'm with these educated people talking about theater, and I don't have a degree yet in theater. And he said, never question why you're here. You're here because someone stepped off a slave ship, kissed the ground, and willed you to be here. And as I heard them sing that song, I thought about all those ancestors and my grandparents and my parents, and that they worked hard. My mother cleaned the homes of the wealthy in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. My father worked in the nastiest, dirtiest jobs in the Ford Road Plains. I'm here because of their work and their faith and their spirit. And my job is to share that spirit, build that spirit, and remind people this is why we do what we do. Because we stand on the shoulders of the people who were on those whaling ships out there. We stand on the shoulders of the people who worked the fields. We stand on the shoulders who were in the factories, and the shoulders of the people who built this country and made it what it is. And we are the ones who make real the promise of democracy, that we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, not an association, not an organization, but a union. That's what we do.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been great to have this conversation. I appreciate it. For more information about the work of Elise Bryant, head to the Labor Heritage Foundation's website, linked in our show notes. And to learn more about the Labor Education Center and to get involved, reach out. We'd love to hear from you.